I'm very pleased to welcome our next guest. You probably know him as the co-founder of the social news site Reddit.
Redditors, thank you.
Reddit fans.
3 of you. Thank you for coming out.
So while he's been serving on Reddit's board, he has gone on to start the social enterprise publisher Breadpig and help launch the startup for travel, Hitmonk. And he also goes around the country talking about internet freedom on a bus. This is Alexis Ohanian. Please welcome him.
Hello. Thank you. I'm really hoping that you guys don't hold it against me that I'm here in a Robert Griffin III jersey. I know I'm in New York. Yes, there's some love. All right. Oh, geez. I see some Giants fans. Here's the thing. You guys played an incredible game a few weeks back, and I was in Palo Alto watching. I live here in New York. I was born here in New York, but I was raised outside of Maryland, and it was after the Colts, before the Ravens. I'm a Skins fan. And you guys broke my heart, because with a minute and change left, Robert Griffin III puts us up top. But, man, Eli Manning, gosh, what a boss. But it's okay. It's okay. Because Monday night, y'all are coming to my town in D.C., and we're going to have a little fun. So, anyway, please don't hold it against me. I'm just rocking a Redskins jersey on stage.
Business casual, as we
discussed. I was told to dress up.
We are not here to discuss football. We are here to talk about community, and Alexis is here to chat about how to monetize that community without totally screwing it up. Those of you who are familiar with Reddit know that it is an extremely and endlessly fascinating community and very self-regulating and surfaces some of the most interesting content on the web. And Alexis and his crew are thinking about the next phase of monetization and turning this city, as you, I think, have called it in the past, into a place where the citizens can contribute and pay some, not the citizens pay, but brands can get involved and get involved in discussions that are happening there. So I want to start by asking you, how does Reddit make money today?
If I can take you back to 2005 when Steve and I started, back then, you could just get away with a pitch that was, we're going to get lots of traffic and advertisers will take care of the rest, don't worry. You can actually raise money on that back in 2005. It's advertising, primarily. It's a sponsored headline, sort of not unlike a sponsored tweet. The idea is Redditors, whether you're looking at a subreddit about the Redskins or the Giants or the NFL or politics or all the different varieties, in that feed, you're sort of disregarding the right rail, as we've seen time after time in most websites. But you're in that feed, and you see a post, it's sponsored, but it's just like every other, in that people can vote on it, people can comment on it. And so the primary way we have been making money has been through these posts, which are on a self-serve platform, but also sold with a sales team. And the best ones actually do insanely well, because you start seeing ads that have hundreds of points because people are actually engaged with the content, because you have members from the team, the company that's advertising, actually commenting and getting into discussions. And one of the areas where I think we have so much to work on, and a lot of this is, I think, my fault, is the way that we've talked about Reddit as a social news website. That is a lot of that is from the vestiges of the whole Dig Reddit thing from years ago. At this point, the growth of Reddit is in all these different subreddits. It really is a platform for online communities. In the same way that you can start a Twitter, if you're Nicki Minaj, you can start a Twitter account and start tweeting about whatever you want. You can create a subreddit about whatever you want. So that's why we have such a diverse array of these online communities. And it's just a matter of advertising to them in a way that they really respond to well. And it's doable. We've seen it happen time and time again. And advertisers are getting smarter about finding ways to not sort of advertise at the expense of communities, but with them. Because, dude, billboards, right? That model of driving along a road and seeing one of those things, and I guess for a while that worked, and we believed that if X number of cars drove by that billboard, it must have been successful. But there's no correlation cause. If you put up a Dunkin' Donuts billboard and sales go up that quarter, is it really because of that billboard? But now we've taken the exact same, the sort of old school ad model online is, digital billboard, throw it on a website. But now we can see data. Now we can see click-through rates, and now we can see that holy shit, no one cares, and it was a lot easier to be ignorant when we didn't have good data. And I still hate Nielsen. I'm sorry if there are any Nielsen people here. Because you guys took Arrested Development off the air, right? How is it? Right? And I've never met a Nielsen family. I'm sure they're wonderful people. But somehow there is a significant sample there that determines the fate of television programming. Like, we live in a world where I can see to the view how many times Gangnam Style has been watched, and yet we have such a disconnect between so many of these old formats for media production. And it's going to change. I mean, it's going to catch up. It has to. But in the meantime, we're going to lose Arrested Developments and have more, 2.5 Men. Sorry, Ashton.
So Reddit, as you were saying,
Sure,
is focused around topics, and it's about the communities and where the users are passionate. It's not about Nicki Minaj, or she doesn't have the same.
She should have a subreddit.
She should have a subreddit. Yeah. She may. I'm sure she does. But she's not going to launch a fan account and get likes and followers. It's more about Nicki Minaj popping in and saying, "Hey, you're already talking about me. What's going on in here?"
Yes.
So given that structure, as we've seen, tell us a little bit about what the next phase is for Reddit monetization.
Well, I really hope we can do some clever stuff here, because I know there are lots of people. So we can all sort of agree that the model that worked in yesteryear of, like, we have printed text on paper and we put an ad next to it. Like, all right, that worked well. That was a thing. But we live in a world where there's just too much data to ignore, and there's got to be a smarter way to do it. And our hope is with Reddit, and I know there are plenty of other sites that are figuring this out, is that we can find really, really different ways to make money, not at the expense of our user base. And so specifically, we have a system called Reddit Gold, which when we launched a few years ago, was just kind of a sort of ceremonial way to support Reddit and show your support. As a member of the community, like in the same way that on Twitter you might have a verified account, if you subscribe to Reddit Gold, you become a Reddit Gold member. Now, this is a subscription model, and what it grants you is fairly superficial. There's some little features, little bells and whistles, but it's a status symbol, and it shows that you care, about the site, and you get a few little privileges. But recently, we enabled the ability to gift it right at the comment level, and so the richness of Reddit comes from these discussions that happen. It's the reason the president came on to do an Ask Me Anything interview, is because in real time, people can ask questions, they get voted on, and then he answers the best ones. You can now gift it at the comment level and say, upvotes are nice, likes are nice, retweets are nice, but to actually sort of put your money where your mouth is and actually gift someone this thing is hopefully going to become a currency on the site.
Did anyone gift Barack Obama Reddit Gold?
I should look. We didn't have the feature up, but you can of course retroactively do it. I would love to be able to tell the president that he had been gifted a certain amount of Reddit Gold. He'd probably just look at me and shake his head with disgust. I'd like to think that if I ever got a chance with the president, I would waste it by telling him, "Hey, you got some Reddit Gold." Like, really? Do you realize what I should be doing right now instead of talking to you? Oh well. But I think this is there are I really think that it's gonna have to look a little differently than just banner ad. Which is the model, unfortunately, we've all been kind of laboring under, and I mean, some have been doing very well by it. But looking forward, I mean, if you look, Facebook's been doing pretty well, although mobile's kind of thrown a wrench in that. And Twitter and Tumblr, I mean, look at these social media sites. We drive insane page views. Reddit had like almost 4 billion page views last month. But how do you find an effective way to monetize that takes advantage of all those page views, but doesn't, trying to think of a non-profane way of saying it, does not make your user experience terrible.
Right.
You can imagine.
So this notion of gifting, letting the community reward other users. Obviously, Reddit is sort of powered by karma, which is this meaningless. It's not meaningless, but it's a measure.
I'm trying to get in Nirvana, dude. I'm counting on it. No.
It's a measure of clout or respect, let's say.
Yeah.
And people will do pretty amazing things to acquire karma, and sometimes they do some pretty sketchy things to acquire karma. And I think we were chatting a bit about assigning some sort of value or brand-sponsored value to karma or to status within the Reddit community. Talk a little bit about that, if you could.
I think there are some really creative ways that you can take what is already a desire to make interesting content and kind of, well, here, I'll give you a specific example. Our brand can engage with that. One of the most active subreddits, even when the show is not on the air, is our Game of Thrones. And I hope you guys all watch it. Oh, it's so good. And literally every day, hours of time, hundreds of hours of time that people should be spending at work or at school, they're spending making fan art or having debates or basically propagating all kinds of content about a show that is not even on the air, like free advertising, free propaganda for a show that's not even on the air right now. this is an opportunity for HBO or Game of Thrones or whoever's sort of running that campaign to engage that community and find ways to, I mean, you can essentially you're effectively getting free advertising from this community of diehard rabid fans of evangelists. Find ways, whether it's through existing systems like this Reddit Gold feature, or others, to basically engage with them. And so if it's like, if you've got some writers who have some spare time, we've had plenty of writers of shows come on and do an Ask Me Anything session within these communities. We've had developers from Microsoft come on promoting, I believe it was their latest browser. And this is, these really run the gamut, whether it's, we had a Washington Redskin on yesterday doing an AMA. I mean, it's the communities are so diverse, whether it's writers for a TV show, whether it's professional athletes. There are all these insights and all these things that can be created that get a community, to drinking whatever Kool-Aid you want because they're already doing it.
Right. I think the Reddit AMA has come of age, obviously with the president, but it's come of age as a marketing channel.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And we've seen it done extremely well in the examples that you've mentioned, and we've seen it done poorly.
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson. But my question for you then is, Reddit, the company, doesn't really see a monetary benefit for them. The interviewee gets the promotion, and the community gets the value of like, hey, I get to talk to the president, or I get to talk to a Microsoft developer. But what does Reddit, besides the community benefit of like Reddit's cool place, what do you get? How can you monetize that?
That is, I mean, there's, I guess the AMA book, ebook. I mean, there are less than elegant ways. Obviously, those pages are still driving lots of page views, and we're still running ads against them to some extent. But again, that's still the old school model. This speaks to a bigger thing that we've not yet cracked, and this is across all social media. There is so much value being created now, whether it's someone who is going on a book tour and this is their publicity stop doing an AMA, or whether it's someone who's launching a Kickstarter and is raising millions because thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are tweeting. Like, there is clearly value being exchanged across these networks. And none of us have figured out the ideal way to, tax has a terrible connotation. But if you think of, to go back to the city metaphor, like New York City is an awesome place to live. And the way New York City sort of makes money is through taxation. And the reason they justify those taxes is because they're like, you want to live here. You want to have your business here because of X, Y, Z awesome reasons. And we're going to take a little bit from facilitating all of that. There isn't yet a clear-cut way for us to do this. Again, unfortunately, everyone hates the IRS. So telling people, hey, we're going to have a tax, not the best PR. But there is undeniably a value when you create these kinds of marketplaces. And I look at something like Etsy, a wonderful Brooklyn-grown startup, and I think, man, the market for stuff, for crafts that people have made, has existed since the beginning of time, when someone was like, look, put two rocks together, give me something for it. And they've brought it to scale in the internet age. And they've done it so incredibly quickly. And a lot of it rests on this sort of social web. And I can't help but wonder, we've experimented with the Reddit Gifts marketplace. We've made inroads into ways to basically allow, there are these trust networks that are now created when you believe in a certain community, whether it's being willing to rent out a room on Airbnb because someone has 3 degrees of Facebook separation from you. We're seeing these new communities emerge where people have trust. And if you can imagine starting eBay again or Craigslist again, but in a world where there's actually trust, maybe there's something there. I don't know if the future is a Reddit Craigslist or a Reddit eBay, but it's undeniable that we're seeing these networks of trust that didn't exist before, and the current solutions are the ones from 15 years ago. And I recently had to sell something for my dad on eBay, and I can't believe that it's still eBay. Like, this is it. It's eBay or bust.
Yeah.
What? And if you've tried to do anything on Craigslist, geez, I mean, it's incredible. It's a testament to the success of that site. But geez, there's bound to be more disruption there. And while people take away chunks, like the aforementioned Airbnb and others and Etsy, I like where that future is going. So I don't know. And we all have different communities, right? Some of us have extremely affluent communities, and we're trying to get them luxury items that they want. And maybe there's a solution there that looks more like, I don't know, guilt, or there's clever stuff happening. The future of it has to be something better than the billboard model.
But it's about content. I mean, I think with Etsy, and the reason why sites like that are successful is that people are willing to pay a surcharge. Merchants are willing to pay a surcharge to get their goods sold for real money to a wide audience. But with a community like Reddit, it's content. So people are this notion of taxing people to come to the site to look at cool pictures of Game of Thrones. Not even tax, but like, you know, who pays the surcharge? I guess it's the brands, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is, you know, we've seen more explicit deals where, you know, companies like VHX will offer the Aziz Ansari stand-up comedy special for a $5 DRM download. That's a very shrewd model that works in this world because he can circumvent all the traditional publishers and just be like, give me the money, fans, like Louis C.K. did before him. There are gaming companies like Humble Indie Bundle that are doing this. Again, it's like direct from sort of creator to consumer. If there's a way that Reddit can build into that relationship and these other networks can build into that relationship and be like, we want to be a part of making this a huge success. We're going to run the ads. We're going to do all the whatever magic to make this huge. So let's find a cut for us.
It's a public broadcasting model to me. It's like an NPR or PBS where...
very lucrative.
Well, but they're very successful. I would say that they're very successful. I mean, they've been around for decades now. So it's kind of like, this is available for free. Anyone can take it for free if they want it, you know, as like the Humble Bundle and things like that. But if you want it to be here in the next 5 years, maybe think about, if you have the means to contribute, you can pitch into the pot. Is that a model that would make sense for a community like Reddit?
It could be. I mean, that's sort of where the origin of gold sort of started there. And in fact, we actually did a ton of merchandise sales a few years ago. It felt like I was running a band. I was stuffing shirts every other day that we were selling to people. And you know, the margins on shirts are nice, but it's not. That isn't the kind of thing that normally gets, you know, investors and people really, really excited. But I can't help. Or maybe there's at least one investor out there maybe that loves the idea of a shirt company. I mean, Threadless has been ludicrously successful, but can't all be Threadless. There really has to be some kind of a fix here, and I think Reddit Gold is a huge step toward that, and it's undeniable that these networks are creating value, and like I said, it's a matter of finding a way to extract it in a responsible way that doesn't screw over a community.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. Talk to me about give me an example of one other social network that you think is doing it right and doing right by their community, and maybe a network that is treading in dangerous water.
Well, the lowest hanging fruit would have to be our former competitor, Dig, because a large part of their downfall can be attributed to the fact that they put advertisers above their users, and to some extent even publishers over their users. Their last version of the site, unfortunately, took away the last vestiges of like a democratic site where people could submit links and vote on them. And when you take away the core of what it's supposed to be about, well, community's not going to be too happy about it. But on a more uplifting note, Kickstarter. I'm so in awe of Kickstarters. They weren't the first to market with that model. I mean, crowdfunding's been around since forever. Again, same kind of thing where it's like, hey, I need to do this thing. Yeah, I'll pitch in. But they executed it so brilliantly, and they are a company that's making real money around a community of creatives, and they've tried to figure out how exactly they'll define what creative is, and so that, you know, they've sort of tightened the kind of projects that can get funded. But they've done such a great job, and I'm not an investor. Trust me, I wish I were. They've done such a great job building up that community and energizing them and exciting them about spending money, and they get a percentage of every dollar that flows through that network.
Right.
So maybe Reddit Kickstarter is the future.
I love Kickstarter as well, but I worry for it because I wonder in 2-3 years when you've got a lot of people putting in lots of money into things that may or may not get built, or the quality may or may not be what they hoped it would be. I wonder if there will be a backlash or an exodus, or people will move on to a different platform or something.
You know, there will undeniably be a moment. You know, Airbnb had that moment a few years ago. I don't know if you heard. Apparently, this woman's apartment was ransacked by some meth head. I'm not even making that up. Like, that was all in the description. And it gained a ton of press. And the Airbnb team did an okay job sort of dealing with it. But then they responded a couple days later very strongly, saying, "Listen, we're putting in an insurance policy, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be okay, and we're going to take precautions so this doesn't happen again." And they've since done tremendously. Like, they had their moment when I think it could have turned the wrong way, and people thought, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe you would rent out your room." But you know, now they turned the corner on that and have done an awesome job since. I think they have more rooms than Hilton, and that was a startup that went into YC with 3 founders just trying to make some extra money renting out space in their apartment. Like, I love the fact that that little nugget of an idea has more rooms than Hilton now. With Kickstarter, they're bound to have a similar project that raises a ton of money and disappoints people. But I hope that they can have a similar kind of moment where they're like, all right, listen, this comes with the territory, and I think that we've seen them be more proactive about saying like, buyer beware, post the risks of your campaign. But it's bound to happen. It's going to make headlines. We're all going to read about it. I'm going to retweet it and be like, it happened. But I hope that they can respond well, and it comes with it. It comes with the territory. But if I've seen anything in the last 7 years, it really is that And when we notice this, think of our local news, right? The kind of stories we tend to hear are always the really, like the bad ones, right? And if you think about it, the vast majority of people actually, not that awful, not that bad. And they don't make news because they just live their lives and take care of their kids and go home at night. And so there's a bias in these stories, and I really do believe, the vast majority of people who rent out rooms on Airbnb and couch surfing before it are actually decent people. And yeah, there are bad experiences. They're the ones that we always hear about. Right. But I really do believe that this model actually works pretty damn well across so many groups because most people are actually pretty decent.
So let's talk about abuse.
Except for Eagles fans. Whoa. That's the one exception. That is the one exception. They throw stuff at me. No, they're no fun.
So let's say there are Eagles fans on Reddit who are maybe want to abuse the system.
Yeah.
What are you guys on guard against in your next move to monetize differently and think about these new models? What sort of abuses would you be not paranoid but on guard against?
It is. Pretty much from the moment when Steve and I realized, not long after Steve and I realized, this was like 2 months into Reddit, hey, this might actually work. There were people submitting links and voting on them. We had people trying to cheat the system almost shortly thereafter. Once we were good enough to be worth cheating, then they started. And it is a constant arms race in terms of people who are trying, whether it's marketers or just businesses who are trying to hustle their stuff to the front page. And again, they're a small percentage of the traffic, but they cause a significant amount of the grief. And unfortunately, that is, I think every one of us in social media has that challenge, and we're all constantly fighting it. But as Reddit becomes more and more prominent and more valuable for people to be sort of on the front page of or in the high-ranking subreddits for, it's going to continue to be a problem. Right. But we're ever vigilant. We have a lot of very smart people making sure that they don't win.
We have a little bit of time left. I want to drop the F word,
all right,
which is Facebook.
Oh, all right.
We've talked a little bit about that in the past, but what do you think about their advertising model, their quest for monetization, which they've done very well, but some might argue at the expense of their community?
Yeah, I didn't realize this until a post that bubbled up on Hacker News recently. Someone screenshotted their Facebook home feed, hit facebook.com. And if you guys notice, ads, actually everything above the fold is pretty much at this point advertisement in the web experience. Mobile, it's obviously a little harder to totally, you're limited real estate, so limited experience ruining space there. But there is, and I should express my one bias, I very publicly poo-pooed their IPO, mostly because they supported a terrible bill called CISPA. And I ended up looking really prophetic because people 3 months later were like, how did you know it was going to do badly? And I was like, actually, I was hating on this bad political decision they made. But anyway, there is a huge shift that they missed and that we're trying not to miss when it comes to mobile. Everyone talks about it. I think better ads on mobile, that moves the needle a little bit. For Facebook to really be the company that they have a ton of smart people. Yep. They have unprecedented access into our lives. Almost, 1 billion people's lives. Now, that's unheard. The world has never seen anything like that. That's a lot of potential. If they can, and it worries me, intellectually it kind of worries me because the Facebook internet is a closed internet. That makes me sad. But from a cold business standpoint, if they can really crack the nut in terms of they already own us and they already know everything about us and they can facilitate a kind of payment system in between, and people have speculated about this, and if they can really get it at scale where it's I'm buying birthday gifts through Facebook and I am really, they have my credit card info and I'm now a click away from buying stuff or from, all kinds of exchanges going on there between, again, 1 billion people. It could be extremely, extremely powerful and make a lot of money. But again, it's a slightly dystopian future that might be really good for Facebook's business. I don't know how great it is for the open internet. But if Instagram showed us anything, aside from the fact that everyone should learn how to program, because that's what Kevin Systrom did, and you too can be a multimillionaire if you learn how to program. Not guaranteed, but we can debate the valuation, or I guess we really can't really debate it, but we can debate the validity of that valuation. But what's undeniable is that site blew up, and I think for an entire generation, like my sister's age, I'm going to be 30 next year, so I'm trying to understand these kids who've come up knowing the internet for their entire lives because I'm very jealous of them. But anyway, for that generation, Instagram was the place where they were sharing photos, where they were having their Facebook experiences there. I mean, it was scary. It was terrifying. And I like the fact that we're at least in an industry where an incumbent like Facebook that has almost 1 billion users and is taking over the world and has its own movie starring Justin Timberlake is still terrified in the span of a year and change about an upstart. I love the fact that this industry is so quick to adapt and evolve. And now, of course, if every next Instagram or potential Facebook competitor just gets acquired by Facebook, that's going to make things less interesting. But I continue to be impressed by human innovation, and so hopefully one of you guys out here can make the next one of those, and then give me credit when I inspired you here at Mashable.
Accept the challenge.
I'm taking it all. But I want to see that, and I think that's. Nothing is guaranteed in this industry. I mean, in my board position at Reddit, whenever I try to give my 2 cents, it's always colored in the fact that we still have a ways to go as a company. But you know what? The company that's drinking our milkshake, we don't even know about right now. And that goes for all of you incumbents out there too. I mean, the internet's an awesome place, and it's great because it's potential for anyone to come out of nowhere with a great idea. But for those of us who are, feel like we're safe, we're anything but. So keep an eye on your milkshake.
There you go. Wise words.
Yeah.
I want to thank Alexis for being here at the Mashable Media Summit. Thank you so much. That's our time.